a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. United States elections, 2018. 2018 elections in the United States will be held on Tuesday, November 6, 2018, except for certain special elections. All these races, regardless if it is for a federal, state, or local office, are being administered by the individual state and local governments instead of at the national or federal level. These midterm elections will take place in the middle of Republican President Donald Trump's first term. All 435 seats in the United States House of Representatives and 35 of the 100 seats in the United States Senate will be contested. In addition, 39 state and territorial governorships as well as numerous other state and local elections will also be contested. Nearly half of all ads by Democrats focused on health care, in particular on defending the Affordable Care Act and keeping in place protections for individuals with pre-existing conditions. Almost a third of Republicans' ads focused on taxes, in particular the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Senate. The 33 senators in Senate Class I will be up for election. 23 of the seats to be contested are presently held by Democrats, and 8 by Republicans, with 2 being independents. The continuing senators are 43 Republican, and 24 Democrat. According to 538, in 2018, Democrats face the most unfavorable Senate map that any party has ever faced in any election, as Democrats have to defend 24 Senate seats to 8 Republican Senate seats. Additionally, special elections are scheduled for the same day, to fill vacancies in the other 2 Senate classes, in Minnesota and Mississippi to fill the seats vacated by Al Franken and Thad Cochran, respectively. House of Representatives. All 435 voting seats in the United States House of Representatives will be up for election. Additionally, elections will be held to select non-voting delegates for the District of Columbia and the U.S. territories, with the exception of the resident commissioner of Puerto Rico, who serves a 4-year term. During or prior to the 2018 House election on November 6, there will be at least 8 special elections, in November 2017. The number of Republican congresspeople announcing their impending retirements or resigning their seats was vastly higher than since the 2006 Congress. Most of these congresspeople faced tough re-election bids in 2018. The number of retirements by Democrats was in line with previous Congresses. The disproportionate number of Republican impending retirements is likely to harm Republican prospects in the 2018 midterm elections, as there will be fewer districts where Republicans have the incumbency advantage. In the states of Kentucky, Louisiana, and North Carolina, there will be no senatorial or gubernatorial elections, leaving House candidates at the top of the ticket. State elections. The 2018 state elections will impact the redistricting that will follow the 2020 United States Census, as many states task governors and state legislators with drawing new boundaries for state legislative and congressional districts. Gubernatorial elections. Elections will be held for the governorships of 36 U.S. states and 3 U.S. territories, as well as for the mayor of the District of Columbia. Special elections may be held for vacancies in the other states and territories, if required by their state/territorial constitutions. Legislative elections. 87 of the 99 state legislative chambers are holding regularly scheduled elections in 2018, as will 6 of the 9 territorial legislative chambers. Louisiana, Mississippi, New Jersey, and Virginia do not hold regularly scheduled legislative elections in even years. Puerto Rico does not hold regularly scheduled legislative elections outside of presidential election years. Kansas, Minnesota, New Mexico, South Carolina, and American Samoa will only hold elections for their lower houses. In legislative chambers that use staggered terms, Only a portion of the seats in the chamber will be up for election. Table of state, territorial, and federal results. This table shows the partisan results of congressional, gubernatorial, and state legislative races held in each state and territory in 2018. Note that not all states and territories hold gubernatorial, state legislative, and United States Senate elections in 2018. Additionally, the territories and Washington, D.C. do not elect members of the United States Senate. Washington, D.C. and the 5 inhabited territories each elect one non-voting member of the United States House of Representatives. Nebraska's unicameral legislature and the governorship and legislature of American Samoa are officially non-partisan. In the table, offices/legislatures that are not up for election in 2018 are already filled in for the after 2018 elections section, although vacancies or party switching could potentially lead to a flip in partisan control. Note that at least 7 seats in the House of Representatives will be vacant at the time of the election. Russian interference. Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats stated during congressional testimony that the United States is under attack from Russian efforts to impact the results of the elections. As of February 13, 2018, 6 U.S. intelligence agencies unanimously reported their conclusion that Russian personnel are monitoring American electoral systems and promoting partisan causes on social media. On May 23, 2018, United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, in a committee hearing, warned that the U.S. government was not adequately protected from Russian interference in the 2018 midterms elections, saying, "No responsible government official would ever state that they have done enough to forestall any attack on the United States of America." On July 26, 2018. Missouri's Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill alleged that Russian hackers unsuccessfully attempted to break into her Senate email account, confirming a report in the Daily Beast. On August 2, 2018, the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, announced along with FBI Director Christopher Wray at a White House press conference that Russia is actively interfering in the 2018 elections, saying, "It is real. It is ongoing." Also on August 2, 2018, NPR reported that Democratic Senator Jan Shaheen reported to the FBI several attempts to compromise her campaign, including both spear-phishing attempts on her staff and a disturbing incident where someone called her offices, impersonating a Latvian official, trying to set up a meeting to talk to me about Russian sanctions and about Ukraine. Her opposition to Russian aggression and support of sanctions has placed her on an official Russian blacklist. On August 8, 2018, Florida Senator Bill Nelson told the Tampa Bay Times that Russian operatives have penetrated some of Florida's election systems ahead of the 2018 midterm elections. They have already penetrated certain counties in the state and they now have free rein to move about, Nelson told the newspaper. He also stated that more detailed information is classified. The Russian hackers may be able to prevent some voters from casting votes by removing people from the voter rolls. Nelson provided no evidence of Russian hacking and was criticized by the Washington Post's fact-checker who gave Nelson's claim 4 Pinocchios, denoting it as an outright lie. At a summit in Helsinki with Vladimir Putin, U.S. President Donald Trump downplayed the conclusions of the U.S. intelligence community, stating that he believed Putin's repeated denials of interference in American elections. Later, President Trump answered, "No," in response to questions asking if he believed Russia would be targeting the midterm elections, but later claimed he was refusing to answer the question, not responding to it. In late July, the president reversed his position and said in a tweet that he's very concerned about allegations of Russian meddling, but adding that he believed interference would only benefit Democrats. Chinese interference. On September 26, 2018, at the United Nations Security Council, Donald Trump accused China of meddling in the upcoming midterm elections in America. Trump claimed that China was trying to damage his political stand prior to the elections as he has imposed tariffs on billions of dollars in Chinese goods. Trump claimed, "They don't want me or us to win. Because I am the first president to ever challenge China on trade." China's Foreign Minister, Wang Yi, also present at the meeting, denounced the accusation, saying, "We did not and will not interfere in any country's domestic affairs. We refuse to accept any unwarranted accusations against China." On September 25, 2018, Dan Coats, U.S. Director of National Intelligence, issued a warning about China's cyber activities, calling them unprecedented in scale and among the most active foreign states conducting cyber activities against United States interests. On September 18, 2018, Trump accused China on Twitter for actively trying to impact and change our election by attacking our farmers, ranchers and industrial workers, because of their loyalty to me. President Trump and officials campaigning. In May 2018, President Trump began to emphasize his effort to overcome the traditional strength of the non-presidential party in midterm elections, with top priority for the White House being to hold the Republican majority in the Senate. He was already at that time well into his own 2020 re-election campaign, having launched it on Inauguration Day, 2017, in May. On a trip to Texas for a Houston fundraiser targeting the midterms, he also held a fundraising dinner in Dallas for the 2020 campaign. By early August, the president's midterms effort had included rallies in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Montana and elsewhere, reprising the style and rhetoric of his 2016 campaign. Democrats need to flip 23 seats to capture the Speaker's gavel, USA Today put it. The president was addressing the economy, the border war, the trade war, don't believe anything, and the Space Force in the rallies, per the report. In late August 2018, controversy surfaced about the degree of campaigning being done on what were termed official visits around the country. One report said, traditionally, partisan attacks and endorsements were kept out of official events, but that President Trump was not observing that norm. Beyond the norm, one commentator was quoted referring to laws designed to prevent taxpayer resources from being used for self-serving purposes, in this case, for campaign purposes. White House recognized individuals familiar with the president's thinking spoke without attribution on a conference call and in another call about the campaigning. The individuals identified 35 events by cabinet and senior staff members, with or affecting House districts in August already. All targeted districts, and described a July 26 presidential trip, presented as official, as having been for Representative Rod Blum of Iowa and Representative Mike Bost of Illinois. The White House responded to the report, "It is unfortunate, but ultimately unsurprising that a liberal publication like Huffington Post would make these misleading accusations and misconstrue the intent of the response," Deputy Press Secretary Lindsay Walters said. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries.